A simple act of kindness. Ava sat on the kitchen counter, swinging her legs back and forth, her heart racing with excitement. It was Thursday, her favorite day of the week. The sun peeked through the curtains, casting a soft golden light across the room, and the smell of freshly baked cookies filled the air. Today was the day she would give a special treat to someone who always seemed to need a little extra joy. Tom, the neighborhood garbage man. "Mom, is the cookie ready yet?" Ava called out, her voice bubbling with anticipation. From the oven, her mother, Lisa, chuckled softly. "Just a few more minutes, sweetheart. You know the cookies need to cool down a bit before we can pack them up." Ava nodded, her eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. Ever since she was old enough to understand the importance of kindness, she had made it a weekly ritual to bake cookies for Tom. It had all started a few months ago, when she noticed him working in their neighborhood. Tom was an older man with a gentle face and kind eyes, always wearing the same faded blue uniform. He had an air of weariness about him, a heaviness that Ava couldn't quite place. Despite his tired demeanor, he always greeted her with a warm smile and a cheerful wave as he collected the trash every Thursday morning. One day, after watching him from her window, Ava had an idea. What if I gave him a cookie? Everyone loves cookies, she thought. And so began her mission, to brighten Tom's day, one cookie at a time. As the timer chimed, Lisa carefully took the cookies out of the oven and set them on a wire rack to cool. Ava watched impatiently, tapping her small fingers on the counter. "Can I help, Mom?" she asked, her voice filled with determination. "Of course, Ava. How about you help me package them up?" Ava jumped down from the counter, her feet hitting the floor with a soft thud. She grabbed a small plastic container, the kind her mother usually used for lunches, and began carefully placing the cookies inside. Each one was round and slightly crisp, with chocolate chips that melted in the warmth of the oven. "Don't forget to add a note," Lisa reminded her, smiling. Ava eagerly picked up a piece of colorful paper and scribbled a quick note. "Thank you for all you do, Tom. Love, Ava." She tucked the note neatly between the cookies and closed the lid, feeling a warm glow of satisfaction. After a quick breakfast, Ava darted out the door, clutching the cookie container tightly. The crisp morning air filled her lungs as she raced down the sidewalk, her curly hair bouncing wildly in the wind. As she approached the curb, she saw Tom's truck parked a little further down the street. "Tom," she called out, waving her hands enthusiastically. Tom looked up from his work, his face breaking into a smile as he recognized the little girl running toward him. "Well, good morning, Ava. What do you have for me today?" Ava beamed with pride as she handed him the container. "I baked these for you. I hope you like them." Tom's eyes widened in surprise as he took the container, clearly touched by the gesture. "You made these all by yourself." "That's very kind of you, Ava. Thank you so much." As he opened the container, the sweet aroma wafted toward him, and he couldn't help but smile even wider. "These look delicious. I'll save one for later, but I can't resist trying one now." He picked up a cookie, took a big bite, and his eyes lit up. "Mom, this is fantastic." Ava giggled, her heart swelling with joy. "I'm so glad you like it. You work really hard, and I just wanted to do something nice for you." Tom's expression shifted slightly, a hint of sadness flickering in his eyes. "You know, Ava, it's little things like this that make a big difference. Thank you for brightening my day." Ava smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "I'll bring you cookies every week." As she waved goodbye, Daryl, Ava's father, watched from the driveway, his brow furrowed in curiosity. He had seen Ava's ritual many times before, but hadn't given it much thought until now. Daryl considered himself a busy man, always preoccupied with work and responsibilities, but seeing his daughter's kindness sparked something within him. Why does she keep bringing cookies to that man? He wondered aloud. With a mix of concern and curiosity, Daryl decided he would follow Tom after his shift today. He wanted to understand why this simple act of kindness mattered so much to Ava. Perhaps there was more to Tom's story than met the eye. After finishing his morning tasks, Darrell watched as Tom waved goodbye to Ava and climbed back into his truck. Darrell hopped into his own vehicle, starting a quiet pursuit. He kept a safe distance, allowing Tom to drive without feeling watched. The streets began to blur past as they traveled further from the neighborhood, winding through areas Darrell rarely visited. Tom's truck pulled into a small, rundown neighborhood that appeared to have seen better days. Darrell's heart sank as he realized Tom's route led him to a part of town filled with neglected houses and overgrown yards. The sight made Darrell uneasy, but he pushed his discomfort aside, reminding himself that he needed to understand. As he continued to follow, Tom parked in front of a dilapidated home. Darrell's heart raced. He watched as Tom stepped out, his shoulders hunched as if carrying an invisible weight. Darrell remained in his car, observing from a distance as Tom walked up to the door, pausing for a moment before knocking. An older woman, frail and weathered, opened the door. Darrell could see the relief on Tom's face as he greeted her. They exchanged a few words, and Tom reached into his pocket, pulling out a small bag. He handed it to her, and she accepted it gratefully, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. Darrell strained to hear their conversation, but it was too muffled. He felt an unexpected pang of sadness as he watched Tom's gentle demeanor transform. It was as if he was no longer just the garbage man, but a man who cared deeply for someone in need. As the older woman stepped back inside, Tom lingered on the porch for a moment, his head hung low. The sight of him standing there alone sent a chill through Darrell. He felt a deep sense of empathy swell within him, mixed with a growing realization of the struggles that so many faced, struggles that were often hidden behind smiles and waves. Darrell watched Tom for a few more moments before he decided to return home. As he drove back, he couldn't shake the heaviness in his heart. It was clear that Tom carried burdens that Ava had no idea about, but perhaps there was something more to this story, a lesson in kindness, community, and the power of compassion that he hadn't fully understood until now. When he arrived home, he found Ava in the living room, surrounded by her toys, her laughter ringing through the house like a melody. Darrell sat beside her, contemplating how he could explain what he had seen without darkening her innocent spirit. "Ava," he began gently, "I think what you're doing for Tom is really important. He seems to appreciate your kindness more than you know." Ava looked up at him, her wide eyes sparkling with excitement. "I love giving him cookies. I think they make him happy." Darrell smiled, wrapping his arms around her. "They do, sweetheart. And I think you might be helping him in ways we don't even understand yet." As they shared a quiet moment together, Darrell felt a spark of determination. He knew he had to find a way to help Tom and perhaps inspire the rest of the community to see the value in kindness and compassion. What began as a simple gesture from a little girl was about to unfold into something much larger, something that would touch the hearts of many and transform their neighborhood into a place of support and understanding. As he gazed at Ava, he felt a renewed sense of purpose and a growing conviction that their lives would soon intertwine with Tom's in ways they could never have imagined. The hidden struggles. "Of course, sweet pea. I figured I'd tag along and see how Tom is doing today," Darrell replied, matching her enthusiasm as he walked alongside her. The two made their way down the familiar path, the warm sunlight wrapping them in a gentle embrace. Darrell felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Today would be the first time he would directly engage with Tom. As they approached the spot where Tom typically parked his truck, Ava's heart began to race with anticipation. She could already see the familiar blue truck, its bright color contrasting with the dull gray of the pavement. Tom was already there, unloading the trash bins and sorting through the garbage. He looked up and noticed Ava, a smile spreading across his face. "Good morning, Ava," he called out, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. "And good morning to you too, sir." His eyes shifted to Darrell, who smiled back, grateful for the warmth of Tom's greeting. Ava ran up to Tom, holding out the container of cookies. "Look, I made you some more cookies. I hope you like them." Tom crouched down to her level, his eyes twinkling with genuine appreciation. "You're spoiling me, young lady. I'm going to need to start running extra laps around the truck to keep up with all these delicious treats." He chuckled, taking the container from her hands. "Maybe I can help you run, Tom," Ava suggested, her innocence shining through. Daryl couldn't help but chuckle at Ava's enthusiasm. "Well, I think Tom is in good shape already, don't you think?" he added, glancing at Tom, who nodded in agreement while taking a cookie out. Daryl watched the exchange between his daughter and Tom, noticing the bond that had developed between them over such a simple act of kindness. He felt a swell of pride for Ava and her unwavering compassion. After a moment, he decided it was time to engage with Tom on a deeper level. "Tom," he began, his tone more serious than before, "I've noticed how hard you work around here. It's great to see you connecting with Ava. She really looks forward to these moments." Tom stood up, the cookie still in hand, and smiled warmly at Daryl. "Thank you, sir. It's nice to have someone appreciate what we do. Most folks don't think twice about the garbage truck. They just want their trash taken away." Daryl nodded, contemplating Tom's words. "I can imagine. It must be a tough job." Tom's expression turned a bit somber. "It can be. Some days are harder than others, but I try to make the best of it. You know, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've seen a lot. People come and go, neighborhoods change. But it's the little moments, like these, that make it worthwhile." Ava watched the two men, her bright smile fading slightly as she sensed the gravity of their conversation. She tilted her head, her curious eyes searching Tom's face. "Why do you always look a little sad when you're working, Tom? Do you miss something?" Daryl's heart sank at her question, but he admired her bravery in asking it. Tom hesitated for a moment, visibly touched by her sincerity. "You're a wise little girl, Ava. Sometimes it's hard to talk about the things we miss. I lost my wife a few years back, and since then, it's been a little lonely. But I keep going for folks like you. It brings a bit of joy to my day." Ava's eyes widened as she processed his words. "I'm sorry, Tom. That's really sad, but you can always talk to me. I'm a good listener." Tom chuckled softly, a hint of warmth returning to his smile. "You are indeed, Ava, and I appreciate that more than you know. But I'm all right, really. Just sometimes, memories come back, you know." Daryl watched as Tom took a deep breath, clearly working to maintain his composure. What was she like? Daryl found himself asking, surprising himself with the question. Tom looked up, a glimmer of nostalgia lighting his features. "Oh, she was the light of my life. Her name was Mary. She loved gardening. Our yard was always filled with flowers. She had a knack for bringing things to life, even in the darkest of times. Every spring, she'd plant tulips and daffodils, and they'd bloom beautifully, reminding us of hope." Ava leaned in, intrigued. "What happened to her?" "She got sick," Tom said quietly. "A long battle with cancer. We fought it together. But in the end, it was just her time. It was hard, and I guess sometimes I just forget how to smile. But then you come along with your cookies, and I remember that there's still sweetness in the world." Daryl felt a lump in his throat, touched by the vulnerability Tom was showing. "Thank you for sharing that, Tom. It takes courage to open up. You're doing important work, and it matters more than you know." Tom nodded, appreciation evident in his gaze. "Thank you, both of you. It's easy to forget that we all have our battles, but when someone shows kindness, it can lighten the load, even if just a little." Ava, always the bright spark, chimed in. "Then I'll keep bringing you cookies, Tom. I want to make you smile." "Then you must promise me you'll keep baking those delicious cookies, Ava. They're the highlight of my week." Tom responded, his smile finally reaching his eyes. As they stood there in the glow of the morning sun, the bond between them grew stronger. Daryl felt a new sense of responsibility. He wanted to do more for Tom and the community, to extend the kindness Ava had started. Tom, have you thought about maybe sharing your story with the neighborhood? I think people would be willing to help. Sometimes it just takes one person to step forward, and others will follow, Daryl suggested. Tom looked down thoughtful. I don't know. People have their own problems. I wouldn't want to burden them with mine. Maybe it's not a burden, but a chance for connection, Daryl countered gently. We all have our struggles, and knowing that someone else is facing them can be a source of strength for others. Ava's shown that, and I believe the community could rally around you. Tom considered Daryl's words, nodding slowly. You might be right. I just never thought of it that way. Daryl could see the gears turning in Tom's mind. How about we start small? Maybe a neighborhood potluck where everyone brings a dish, and we can share our stories. It could be a way for you to connect with everyone again. Ava's eyes sparkled with excitement. Oh, that sounds fun. We can invite everyone. I'll bake a lot of cookies to share. Tom smiled at the idea, his heart warming at the thought of community and connection. That could be something special. I'll think about it, Daryl. Thank you for encouraging me. As the morning wore on, Daryl felt invigorated by the conversation. He knew that with Ava's kindness and his support, they could create a ripple effect of compassion in their community. Perhaps by encouraging Tom to share his story, they could help not just him, but many others who felt unseen and unheard. As they parted ways, Ava waved goodbye, her innocent spirit shining brightly. See you next week, Tom. I'll bring even more cookies. Can't wait, Ava. And thank you for being such a good friend, Tom replied, his heart lighter than it had been in a long time. On the drive home, Daryl felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was more determined than ever to support Tom and build a stronger, more connected community. Ava's compassion had opened a door he didn't even know existed, and he was eager to step through it, ready to make a difference. As they arrived home, Daryl began to brainstorm ideas for the neighborhood potluck, thinking about who they could invite and how to spread the word. Ava rushed inside, eager to tell her mother all about the morning's events, her laughter filling the house with joy. The seeds of change had been planted, and as Daryl looked at his daughter's glowing face, he felt a sense of hope. Perhaps together, they could help Tom heal and create a community that thrived on kindness and connection, proving that even the smallest gestures could lead to monumental change. Seeds of change. Ava's drawing transformed the flyer into something special. With her colorful crayon strokes, she illustrated a large, smiling cookie with 2 chocolate chips for eyes and a big grin, surrounded by tiny flowers and sunshine. Daryl chuckled at her creativity. That's definitely going to grab people's attention. With their flyers in hand, they set out to spread the word. They walked through the neighborhood, knocking on doors and chatting with neighbors about the upcoming potluck. At each house, Daryl noticed the same reaction: a smile, a moment of surprise, and then excitement at the idea of coming together. Hey, did you hear about Tom? One neighbor exclaimed. I didn't know he was struggling. It's great that Ava is doing this. Another neighbor, a retired teacher named Mrs. Chen, remarked. Children have a way of reminding us about the importance of community. I'll bake some of my famous apple pie for the potluck. As they continued to invite more families, Daryl began to realize how deeply the community cared for one another. They weren't just neighbors. They were friends, united by shared experiences, laughter, and struggles. This realization filled him with hope and determination. Finally, the day of the potluck arrived. Daryl and Ava awoke early, buzzing with energy. The sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over their backyard, which they had transformed into a welcoming space for their neighbors. Daryl set up tables and chairs under the shade of a large oak tree, while Ava helped decorate with colorful streamers and balloons. Look, Dad, it looks like a party. Ava squealed, dancing around the yard. Her joy was infectious, and Daryl couldn't help but smile, feeling proud of her spirit. As guests began to arrive, Daryl greeted each family warmly. There were families with kids Ava's age, seniors who had lived in the neighborhood for decades, and even new faces eager to connect. The atmosphere was alive with laughter and conversation, the air filled with the delightful aroma of various dishes: potato salad, baked ziti, and of course, Mrs. Chen's apple pie. As people settled in, Darryl noticed Tom standing slightly apart from the crowd, a look of uncertainty on his face. Ava, ever observant, spotted him too. "Dad, let's go talk to Tom." "Absolutely, sweetheart," Darryl replied, guiding her through the gathering. They approached Tom, who held a small plate of food and looked as if he were trying to figure out where he belonged. "Hey, Tom. I'm glad you could make it," Darryl greeted him, clapping a hand on his shoulder. Tom smiled sheepishly. "Thanks for having me. It's nice to see everyone. I wasn't sure if I should come." "Of course you should. Everyone's excited to see you. Besides, this is your day too," Ava chimed in, her eyes sparkling with sincerity. Tom glanced around, slowly relaxing as he took in the scene. Neighbors chatting, kids playing, and the cheerful atmosphere. "I never imagined anything like this. It's overwhelming, but in a good way." Darryl could see the change in Tom's demeanor. The tension in his shoulders eased as he began to engage with the people around him. Ava, full of energy, began pulling him toward the tables laden with food. "Come on, Tom. Let's eat." The three of them filled their plates, and Ava eagerly chatted about her school, her favorite games, and, of course, the cookies she made for Tom. Laughter erupted as Tom playfully teased Ava about being a future pastry chef. As they ate, the conversations around them flowed naturally. Darryl listened as neighbors shared stories, laughter filling the air. Some talked about their families, while others reminisced about the good old days in the neighborhood. It was a tapestry of shared experiences, and Darryl felt a deep sense of belonging. Eventually, Darryl stood up and tapped his glass, signaling for attention. "Hey, everyone. Thank you all for coming today. This potluck is special for many reasons, but I want to highlight one in particular. Our friend Tom. He's been a vital part of our community, working hard every day to keep our streets clean and safe. Let's show him how much he means to us." A round of applause erupted, and Tom looked genuinely surprised, his cheeks flushing with appreciation. He stood up awkwardly, not used to being the center of attention. Wow. I really appreciate this, everyone. It's not something I expected at all. I just do my job, you know. But seeing all of you here, sharing stories and food, it means a lot. I've had a tough time since my wife passed, and I guess I didn't realize how lonely I've been." The crowd remained silent, hanging onto his every word. But Ava's kindness. "It's been a light in my life. She's reminded me that even in the darkest times, there's always hope and connection. Thank you for welcoming me into your lives." Darryl watched as Tom's words touched everyone. It was a heartfelt moment of vulnerability, breaking the barriers between neighbors and allowing them to see one another's struggles. After Tom spoke, several neighbors stepped forward, sharing their own stories of loss, struggles, and the ways they had found hope in each other. Darryl realized how interconnected they all were, each person carrying burdens that often went unseen. Ava listened with wide eyes, absorbing the stories shared around her. As the gathering continued, she took it upon herself to cheer everyone up. She gathered the children for a game of tag, her laughter ringing through the air like music. Darryl felt a wave of gratitude wash over him as he watched his daughter play, her spirit igniting joy in those around her. The love and support that surrounded Tom created a ripple effect, allowing the community to open their hearts to one another. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Darryl noticed Tom talking to several neighbors, laughing and sharing stories. It was as if a weight had lifted off his shoulders. He was no longer just the garbage man, but a valued member of the community. Darryl approached Tom, who looked more relaxed than he had in ages. "How are you feeling, Tom?" Darryl asked. "Better than I have in a long time," Tom admitted, a genuine smile on his face. "This has been Extraordinary. I didn't realize how much I needed this. That's the power of community, Daryl replied. Ava's kindness sparked something beautiful, and it's just the beginning. We can all support one another. Tom nodded, gratitude shining in his eyes. I can see that now. Thank you, Daryl, for everything. You've helped me more than you know. As the evening wound down, people began to say their goodbyes, and Tom was surrounded by neighbors exchanging numbers, inviting him for coffee and offering support. Daryl felt an overwhelming sense of pride in his daughter and the community they had fostered together. In the days that followed, the potluck served as a catalyst for ongoing connections among the neighbors. People began to check in on each other, share meals, and offer help in small yet meaningful ways. Daryl watched in amazement as Ava's simple act of kindness created a ripple effect, inspiring others to reach out and connect. Tom, buoyed by the support he received, began to come out of his shell. He started volunteering at community events, sharing stories about his life, and even hosting a few gatherings of his own. Daryl was proud to see the change in him. His laughter was more frequent, and his spirit was brighter. Ava continued to bring cookies to Tom each week, their friendship blossoming into something beautiful. With every cookie, they shared not just a snack but stories, laughter, and the healing power of connection. But as the days turned into weeks, Daryl sensed that their journey with Tom was far from over. He had seen the impact of kindness and community spirit, and he was eager to explore how they could continue to support Tom and others in need on a larger scale. Little did he know, the seeds of change they had planted together were only beginning to grow, and their story was about to take a new and unexpected turn. Discovering strength. Weeks passed, and the transformation within the community continued to evolve. What started as a simple potluck now ignited a ripple of collective action. Neighbors were more engaged with one another, looking out for each other, exchanging recipes, and sharing support. But for Daryl and Ava, this journey felt far from complete. They knew the power of connection and realized that there were still many hidden struggles within their neighborhood, like Tom's had been. One evening after dinner, Daryl and Ava sat on their porch, enjoying the warm breeze. Ava, always the one to think ahead, turned to her father with a sparkle in her eyes. Dad, what if we did something bigger next time? Not just a potluck. Maybe we can do something where everyone helps out, like a big project. Daryl smiled at his daughter's enthusiasm, his mind already racing with possibilities. He knew she was onto something. That's a great idea, sweetheart. What if we organized a community cleanup day? We can get everyone together, have a picnic, and then work to make the park or the neighborhood look better. It'll be fun, and we'll be doing something good at the same time. Ava's excitement was palpable. Yes, that's perfect. And maybe we can invite even more people this time, like the kids from my school or people from other neighborhoods too. It can be like a huge team helping out. With that, Daryl and Ava immediately began planning the next event. This time, they decided to call it the Community Picnic and Service Day, where they'd bring people together for a meal, followed by an afternoon of cleaning and revitalizing the local park. It would combine the joy of community building with a sense of purpose, offering everyone a chance to contribute. To spread the word, Ava once again took charge of creating the flyers. Using her bright, creative energy, she drew pictures of smiling suns, trees, and people working together. She filled the paper with cheerful images of children running around and grown-ups planting flowers and picking up litter. Daryl was amazed by her artistic flair. It was more than just cute doodles. It was a visual call to action. They hit the streets again, walking door to door to talk to neighbors. This time, they cast a wider net, reaching out to neighboring blocks, the local school, and even the nearby grocery store, where Daryl pinned up a few flyers near the entrance. Word of the event spread quickly, and soon, people began to express their eagerness to participate. As the day of the Community Picnic and Service Day approached, the anticipation in the neighborhood grew. More and more people voiced their excitement about making a difference, and families began planning their contributions. Some offered to bring food, while others pledged to provide gardening tools, trash bags, and gloves for the cleanup. On the morning of the event, the weather was perfect, a soft, warm breeze with clear blue skies. Daryl and Ava woke up early to set up tables and decorations in the park. Soon, neighbors began arriving, many of them carrying trays of food, casseroles, sandwiches, salads, and, of course, Mrs. Chen's famous apple pie. The picnic began with joyful chatter, the park buzzing with the sounds of children laughing and playing, while adults gathered around to enjoy the food. There was an unmistakable sense of togetherness in the air, as everyone realized that this wasn't just a social event. It was an opportunity to give back, to strengthen the bonds that had been built since the first potluck. Tom arrived a little later, his familiar shy smile on his face, but this time he didn't hang back. The change in him was noticeable. He no longer carried the weight of solitude on his shoulders. Instead, he mingled freely, catching up with people he had once only waved to during his garbage collection rounds. Ava spotted him first, running over with a big smile. "Hi, Tom. You made it." "Of course, kiddo," Tom replied, his voice lighter than Daryl had ever heard it. "I wouldn't miss it for the world. You're always making sure I'm included." After the meal, Daryl stood up and tapped a glass to get everyone's attention. "All right, everyone. First of all, thank you all for coming out. This picnic was just the start of what we're here to do today. We've got a park to clean up and beautify, and with everyone's help, I'm sure we can make this place shine." With that, the real work began. Groups of neighbors spread out across the park, some picking up trash, others pulling weeds, and still others planting new flowers and trees that local businesses had donated for the occasion. The air was filled with the hum of busy activity, and even the children got involved, helping wherever they could. Ava, ever the leader, organized her friends to gather up discarded bottles and wrappers scattered throughout the park. She handed out trash bags and gloves, giving everyone their assignments. Watching her, Daryl felt a swell of pride. At her young age, Ava was already proving to be a natural leader, someone who could inspire others to action through kindness and joy. Meanwhile, Daryl and Tom worked together on planting a row of trees along the edge of the park. As they dug into the soil, Daryl noticed a quiet resolve in Tom, a renewed sense of purpose. They worked in companionable silence for a while before Tom spoke up. "You know, Daryl, I used to feel like an outsider in this community," Tom admitted, his voice steady but thoughtful. "I never thought anyone would notice me, let alone care about my struggles. But because of you and Ava, I feel like I belong." Daryl paused, leaning on his shovel. "You've always belonged, Tom. It just took a little nudge for people to realize what an important part of this community you are. And honestly, we're all better off for knowing you." Tom nodded, his eyes reflecting a quiet gratitude. "I've been thinking, maybe it's time I start giving back too. I've been keeping to myself for so long, but seeing everyone come together like this, it's inspiring. I want to be part of it." Daryl smiled. "You're already a part of it, Tom. But if you want to do more, I know there are plenty of opportunities. People are always looking for someone with your work ethic and heart." As they finished planting the last tree, Daryl looked around the park. What had once been a neglected, forgotten space was now coming alive, thanks to the efforts of the entire community. The freshly planted trees swayed gently in the breeze, their leaves glistening in the sunlight. Children laughed as they played tag, running through the newly cleaned grass, and neighbors stood together, admiring the fruits of their labor. Tom stepped back, wiping his hands on his pants, a satisfied smile on his face. "It feels good to do something like this," he said, his voice filled with a quiet pride. Daryl nodded in agreement. "It's amazing what we can accomplish when we work together. And this is just the beginning." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, Darrell realized that what they had built was more than just a cleaner park or a stronger neighborhood. They had created something intangible yet incredibly powerful, a sense of shared purpose, a reminder that even in the smallest acts of kindness, there is the potential to change lives. Ava, exhausted but happy, came running over to her father. "Dad, look how beautiful the park is now. We did it." Darrell scooped her up into his arms, laughing as she beamed with pride. "We sure did, sweetheart. And this is only the beginning. There's so much more we can do." As they walked home that evening, Ava's small hand tucked into his, Darrell felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. The simple act of giving a cookie had led to something much greater than he could have ever imagined. It had brought their community together in ways that he hadn't thought possible, proving that even the smallest gestures could create waves of change. But as he looked down at his daughter, who was now skipping beside him, he knew that their journey was far from over. There were still so many people in need, so many more opportunities to spread kindness and compassion. And with Ava's heart leading the way, he was excited to see where their next adventure would take them. The power of togetherness. As the days turned into weeks, the neighborhood thrived with the energy of community spirit. Darrell and Ava continued their mission of bringing people together, transforming their home into a hub of activity. They held weekly gatherings in their backyard, inviting families for game nights, potlucks, and crafting sessions. Each event fostered connections among neighbors who once barely knew each other, creating a tapestry of relationships woven with laughter, shared stories, and a newfound sense of belonging. Ava's enthusiasm was infectious. She quickly became known as the event coordinator of the neighborhood. Inspired by the success of their previous gatherings, she proposed a new idea: Community Heroes Day. The premise was simple yet powerful. Each family would highlight someone in their lives who had made a difference, whether it was a neighbor, a family member, or a local business owner. They would share stories of kindness and gratitude, recognizing the everyday heroes who often went unnoticed. Darrell was thrilled at the thought of celebrating the kindness that surrounded them. "This is a great way to keep the momentum going, Ava. I can't wait to hear everyone's stories." As they began to plan, they created colorful flyers, inviting everyone in the community to participate. They reached out to Tom, who immediately jumped on board, his face lighting up with excitement. "I know just the people to invite," he said. "Let's make this bigger than we imagined." Tom took charge of contacting his fellow workers from the sanitation department. He emphasized how each of them had stories about the kindness they witnessed in their daily lives, often overlooked in their line of work. Darrell marveled at how Tom had transformed from the shy, reserved man he had met weeks ago into a vibrant community leader, eager to share his experiences and uplift those around him. As the event approached, the neighborhood buzzed with anticipation. Darrell noticed the palpable excitement as families decorated their homes with streamers and banners, promoting the upcoming celebration. The atmosphere was electric. Children ran about, eagerly discussing which heroes their families would honor. The sense of unity was overwhelming, and Darrell felt a swell of pride. On the day of Community Heroes Day, the park bustled with energy. Families set up tables adorned with colorful decorations, each displaying photos and stories of their heroes. Darrell and Ava arrived early to help with the final touches. The park, usually a quiet space, transformed into a vibrant hub of activity, laughter, and heartfelt conversations. Darrell looked around, soaking in the atmosphere. Kids darted about, playing games and enjoying the playground, while adults chatted and laughed, some even forming new friendships. The diverse mix of cultures, backgrounds, and experiences painted a beautiful picture of their community. As the event began, Darrell took the microphone to welcome everyone. "Thank you all for coming to our first Community Heroes Day. Today, we're here to celebrate the unsung heroes in our lives, those who have inspired us, supported us, and shown us kindness in times of need. We may not wear capes, but our everyday actions can create waves of positivity and change. Let's share our stories and spread the love." Ava stood beside her father, her excitement evident as she introduced the first speaker. I want to invite Mr. Tom up to share his story. He's been such an amazing friend to all of us, and I know he has some incredible heroes to tell us about. Tom walked up, his heart pounding with a mix of nerves and excitement. He had never been one to speak in front of large crowds, but the warmth of the community made it easier. Thank you, Ava, Daryl, and everyone for being here today. I want to talk about my hero, my wife, Lisa. She was the kindest person I ever knew. She taught me the importance of compassion and understanding. After she passed, I felt lost for a long time, but I remember her words. Kindness is contagious. She believed that one small act of kindness could change someone's life. Tom paused, taking a deep breath as he continued. After her passing, I found myself struggling. I wanted to honor her memory, so I started looking for ways to help others. Working in sanitation, I see so many people who feel invisible. It became my mission to bring a smile to their faces, just as Lisa did for me. Tom shared anecdotes of his experiences on the job, helping an elderly neighbor carry her groceries, rescuing a lost puppy, and even spending time with children in the community who would wave at him during his rounds. The crowd listened intently, nodding and smiling, feeling the sincerity in his words. Each act may seem small, but they add up, Tom concluded. It's not about the size of the action. It's about the heart behind it. I'm grateful for this community and for the chance to be part of something bigger than myself. Thank you for being my heroes. As Tom stepped down, the crowd erupted in applause, and several people wiped away tears. Daryl felt a rush of emotion himself, realizing how powerful Tom's story was. It resonated with everyone, reinforcing the very essence of their gathering. Next, Ava eagerly introduced her best friend, Mia, whose family had prepared a display honoring their grandmother. Maya stood confidently, her eyes shining with pride. My hero is my grandma. She came to this country with nothing, but she worked hard and built a life for our family. Every summer, she would take care of us, teaching us how to cook and telling us stories of her past. Her resilience and love inspire me every day. Mia's heartfelt tribute touched the hearts of many, leading to a wave of stories from other families. One by one, neighbors shared tales of the heroes in their lives. The single mother who worked 3 jobs, the local baker who donated bread to families in need, the teacher who stayed after school to help struggling students. Daryl watched as the event unfolded, feeling the unity swell among them. The atmosphere was electric, filled with laughter, tears, and a sense of belonging. They were not just sharing stories. They were building a foundation for a stronger community. As the sun began to dip low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the park, Daryl gathered everyone together for a final thought. As we wrap up today, remember that each of us has the power to be a hero. We may not wear capes, but our actions, no matter how small, can create ripples of kindness that spread far and wide. Let's carry this spirit with us and continue supporting one another, just as Tom and Ava have shown us. The crowd cheered, and a sense of determination filled the air. As families exchanged contact information and promised to stay connected, Daryl felt a sense of fulfillment. They had built more than just a community. They had cultivated a family bound by love and kindness. As the event concluded, children played as the sun began to set, creating a picturesque backdrop. Daryl and Ava walked around, chatting with neighbors and exchanging hugs. Tom approached Daryl, his eyes shining with gratitude. Thank you for bringing us all together. Today was amazing. I never expected so many people would come together like this. It was a team effort, Daryl replied, feeling proud. And you played a huge role in making it happen, Tom. You showed everyone how important it is to connect and support one another. As the last remnants of daylight faded, Daryl gathered Ava and Tom to help clean up. They chatted about future plans and how they could continue to build on the momentum they had created. Next, we could start a community garden, Ava suggested excitedly, her mind racing with ideas. Or a book club? Tom chimed in, his face lighting up with enthusiasm. We could get everyone involved, sharing stories not just about heroes, but also about our own lives and cultures. Daryl nodded, feeling a surge of inspiration. I love that idea. We can also organize workshops where people can share their skills, whether it's cooking, crafting, or anything else. The possibilities are endless. As they cleaned up, the night air filled with laughter and excitement for the future. Daryl knew they were just beginning to scratch the surface of what was possible. With each event, they were fostering a deeper sense of belonging and support, ensuring that no one felt alone in their struggles. Later that evening, as they drove home, Ava leaned back in her seat, a satisfied smile on her face. Dad, today was the best day ever. I can't believe so many people came, and everyone had such great stories. I really feel like we're making a difference. Daryl looked at her, his heart swelling with pride. You're right, Ava. We are making a difference. This is just the start of something beautiful. With their hearts full and their minds racing with ideas for the future, Daryl and Ava knew that together they could create a ripple effect of kindness and connection that would change not only their lives, but the lives of everyone in their community. They had built a foundation, and the seeds of hope they had planted would continue to grow, flourishing into a thriving garden of love, support, and unity. As they pulled into their driveway, Daryl glanced at Ava, her eyes sparkling with dreams and possibilities. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that they were not just neighbors, but a family united by compassion and kindness. And with each passing day, their little community would continue to thrive, proving that even the smallest acts of love can create the biggest changes. The legacy of kindness. In the weeks following Community Heroes Day, the neighborhood transformed into a vibrant, interconnected tapestry of families supporting one another. Daryl and Ava found themselves busier than ever, as the energy of their recent event sparked new ideas and collaborations. Each day brought fresh opportunities for kindness, with families reaching out to one another more frequently, sharing meals, and checking in to see how they could help. Daryl and Ava decided to establish a kindness committee composed of volunteers from the neighborhood who would brainstorm and implement initiatives that promoted unity and support. They held their first meeting in their living room, inviting everyone to share their ideas. On the day of the meeting, Daryl brewed a pot of coffee while Ava arranged snacks and colorful index cards for brainstorming. As the neighbors arrived, they chatted excitedly, eager to contribute. Tom was one of the first to arrive, bringing his wife, Lisa, who had been inspired by her husband's recent community involvement. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming, Daryl said, welcoming the group. We're here to discuss how we can continue building on the momentum from Community Heroes Day. Let's share our ideas on how we can keep the spirit of kindness alive in our neighborhood. Ava took the lead, handing out the index cards. Write down any ideas you have for community events or projects. Don't be shy. No idea is too big or too small. As people scribbled down their thoughts, conversations sparked. Ideas ranged from organizing a neighborhood cleanup day to starting a shared meal program where families could sign up to prepare extra dishes for those in need. One of the newer families, the Martins, suggested a kindness chain. It's simple, Mrs. Martin explained. Each family could commit to doing one random act of kindness each week for another family in the neighborhood. We could even keep track of it on a big chart in the park. The suggestion brought a round of applause, and soon everyone was chiming in with their thoughts. Daryl felt his heart swell with pride. This was exactly what he had envisioned when he first started working with Ava. The community was not just responding to their initiative, they were taking ownership of it. As the meeting concluded, they settled on a few key initiatives to launch. They decided to kick off a monthly Kindness Day, where families could come together to volunteer in various capacities, whether through cleaning parks, organizing food drives, or assisting the elderly. Each month would feature a different theme, focusing on different aspects of community support. Ava beamed with excitement as they brainstormed ideas, I can't wait for our first Kindness Day. I want to organize some fun activities for the kids, like games and crafts, while the adults work on community projects. With the plan in place, the group began meeting weekly to discuss logistics. Word spread quickly throughout the neighborhood, and soon, even more families joined in, eager to be part of this uplifting movement. The first Kindness Day. The first Kindness Day dawned bright and sunny. Daryl and Ava arrived early to the park to set up. Tables adorned with colorful banners welcomed families as they arrived. Ava had crafted playful decorations, and her enthusiasm was contagious. As families gathered, Daryl welcomed everyone. Thank you all for coming. Today, we're not just volunteering, we're building relationships. Remember, the goal is to have fun and spread kindness. Let's get to work. The children were buzzing with energy, eagerly participating in games designed to teach them the values of kindness and teamwork. Daryl watched as Ava led a group of kids in an activity where they painted kindness rocks, small stones decorated with positive messages and cheerful designs. These rocks can be placed around the neighborhood as little reminders of kindness, she explained. While the kids engaged in their creative project, the adults divided into teams to tackle various tasks around the park. Some were assigned to a cleanup crew, armed with garbage bags and gloves, while others worked on building a community garden. The laughter and chatter of families mingled with the sounds of nature as the day unfolded. Daryl felt a sense of fulfillment watching everyone work together, sweat glistening on brows and smiles lighting up faces. They were not only enhancing their environment, but also reinforcing the bonds that made their community special. As the sun began to dip in the sky, the volunteers paused for a well-deserved break. They gathered around a picnic table laden with food contributed by various families. Everyone dug into homemade dishes, sharing stories and laughter over meals that reflected the diverse culinary traditions within the community. Tom stood up to speak, raising his glass of lemonade. I want to thank everyone for being here today. This is what it's all about, coming together to support one another and building a community we can all be proud of. I can't help but think of my wife, Lisa, and how happy she would be to see all of us united in kindness. His words resonated deeply, and a wave of applause followed. People shared their own sentiments, expressing gratitude for the newfound friendships and the sense of belonging they experienced. Daryl realized that through their efforts, they had created more than just events. They had fostered a true sense of community. The ripple effect. As the weeks rolled on, the impact of their initiatives became evident. The kindness chain became a beloved tradition, with families taking turns performing acts of kindness for one another. The kids participated wholeheartedly, creating handmade cards, baking cookies, or helping with yard work. The small gestures spread like wildfire, igniting a culture of support and empathy. One Saturday afternoon, Daryl received a call from Mrs. Ramirez, an elderly neighbor who had recently struggled with her health. She was overwhelmed with joy as she recounted how her family had received meals from several neighbors. I never knew how much kindness was around me, she said, her voice quivering with emotion. You've all shown me that I'm not alone. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful. Daryl relayed the story to Ava, who beamed with pride. That's amazing, Dad. We really are making a difference. Not long after, a local news station caught wind of the community's efforts. They arrived to interview Daryl, Ava, and several families about their initiatives and the positive changes in the neighborhood. The segment featured clips of smiling families working in the community garden, children sharing their painted kindness rocks, and testimonials from residents expressing their newfound sense of belonging. When the segment aired, it touched hearts far beyond their neighborhood. Inspired by the stories of love and support, neighboring communities began to adopt similar initiatives. Daryl received messages from families in nearby towns, eager to learn more about their efforts. Let's share what we've learned, Ava exclaimed one day after receiving a message from a woman in a neighboring town. We can organize a workshop to help them start their own kindness initiatives. Daryl was amazed by his daughter's initiative and the realization that their small community was starting a movement. Together, they coordinated a workshop, inviting families from nearby neighborhoods to share ideas and experiences. The turnout exceeded their expectations, and soon, they found themselves in a room filled with eager participants ready to spread kindness. During the workshop, Daryl encouraged attendees to share their thoughts and ideas. Remember, every small act matters. Your kindness can ripple through the lives of others, creating a chain reaction that strengthens our communities, he said, his voice filled with passion. The annual Kindness Festival. As the months went by, the original concept of Kindness Day grew into an annual event, the Kindness Festival. The festival became a major highlight of the community calendar, attracting people from all over to celebrate kindness, love, and connection. Ava took the lead on planning the festival, brimming with ideas to make it memorable. She suggested a variety of activities, from a kindness-themed talent show to workshops focused on various acts of service. We can have booths where families can sign up to volunteer for local charities, she said, her enthusiasm contagious. Daryl was impressed by Ava's ability to envision something so grand and encouraged her creativity. Let's incorporate all the amazing ideas we've gathered over the year. This festival will truly reflect the heart of our community. As the festival day approached, the excitement grew. Daryl and Ava enlisted the help of Tom and other neighbors to prepare the park. Banners were hung, tables were set up for food and activities, and volunteers donned colorful t-shirts emblazoned with the festival logo, a heart symbolizing kindness intertwined with a tree representing community. When the day arrived, the park was alive with the sounds of laughter and music. Families set up picnic blankets, children ran about with painted faces, and a local band provided a festive atmosphere. Daryl marveled at the turnout. People from neighboring towns had come to celebrate and share in the spirit of kindness. As the festival kicked off, Ava took the stage, her voice ringing with excitement. Welcome to our first annual Kindness Festival. Today, we celebrate the love, support, and friendships we've built together. Remember, kindness is a choice we make every day, and it's our responsibility to share it with the world. The day was filled with activities that celebrated community and connection. Families participated in a kindness scavenger hunt, where they searched for acts of kindness hidden around the park. Each station represented a different aspect of kindness, encouraging participants to engage with one another and share their experiences. The talent show featured performances by children and adults alike, showcasing their unique skills while sharing stories of how kindness had impacted their lives. Daryl felt a swell of pride as he watched his daughter sing a heartfelt song about friendship and compassion, her voice resonating with emotion. As the sun began to set, the festival culminated in a candlelight vigil, where everyone gathered to reflect on the importance of kindness in their lives. Daryl stood before the crowd, his heart full. Let this festival remind us that kindness knows no boundaries. Together, we can change the world, one act of kindness at a time. As the flickering candles illuminated the faces around him, Daryl felt a profound sense of connection to his community. He looked at the faces of the families he had come to know and love, people who had supported each other through challenges and celebrated triumphs together. A new beginning. Weeks after the festival, Daryl received a letter from the mayor's office. The town had nominated him and Ava for a community service award in recognition of their efforts to foster kindness and unity. When they received the news, both Daryl and Ava were overjoyed, but Daryl knew that this was not just about them. It was a celebration of their entire community. At the award ceremony, Daryl stood on stage, holding the plaque in his hands. "This award belongs to each and every one of you," he said, gesturing to the crowd. "What we've created here is a legacy of kindness, a commitment to supporting one another and uplifting our community. Let's continue to inspire others to do the same." The cheers and applause echoed through the auditorium, but the real victory was the change they had ignited in their neighborhood. Daryl and Ava recognized that kindness was not a one-time event. It was a continuous journey. They made a pact to keep the spirit alive, committing to expand their initiatives even further. They envisioned a future where kindness and community service became a way of life, and they couldn't wait to see where their journey would take them next. Months later, as Daryl watched Ava paint another kindness rock in their front yard, he realized that they had ignited a flame that would burn brightly for generations to come. Their community had become a beacon of hope, proving that through love, support, and kindness, they could create a world where everyone thrived. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Daryl smiled, knowing that they had built something truly special, a legacy that would inspire others long after they were gone. Together, they were not just neighbors. They were family, united in kindness and love.